Okay, another question came up about independent reading. In terms of how do I incorporate that into the classroom? Do I incorporate that into the classroom? So I would say that independent reading for me has been a journey. And it's been something that I've landed on differently at different points in my teaching. So I can speak to that journey and speak to where I am now. So I guess what I would say is that there are wonderful examples of pure readers workshop, right? So if you look at the work of Penny Kittle, you go back and look at the work of Nancy Atwell. If you look at Pernille Ripp even, who does a lot of this, what you'll find are teachers who are creating lots of space for students to do lots of independent reading. And it can absolutely work. But there is a huge apparatus that comes with that kind of reading workshop. And it's not just sit and have kids read. So in those kind of workshop models, students are really going through a very clear set of skills that they're working on. The teacher's constantly doing mini lessons, having workshop conferences with those students. The students move in and out of small groups. They oftentimes are doing presentations on their work to authentic audiences. They are doing writing that connects to those texts. So it can absolutely happen, and it can be the focus of kind of a way of organizing an English classroom if you want it to be. I think we have to realize, though, that with that model comes a really huge commitment. So one of the things that I have definitely learned is that when I have large group discussion, it usually takes the least amount of prep on my part. When I move to smaller groups, smaller group work, that takes more prep on my part. When I'm moving to individual work, that takes by far the most prep on my part. And so when you think about the constructs of a successful reading workshop, I think we have to really look beneath the surface and see all of the things that really go into it in order to make it successful. In lieu of being able to devote, a complete way of teaching to workshop, which some people are able to do, some people are not able to do for a variety of reasons. I think that when we ask students to read independently, I think that can be really, really powerful. But I think it also still has to be really purposeful, and it has to be really meaningful. I'm a huge believer in connecting as many things as possible. So if I'm going to do, for example, an independent reading unit, I still am probably going to have all of those book choices somehow have some connection so that I can help kids move in and out of those small groups into those discussions. The thing that I don't want to do with independent reading is just give kids some time to read and then not have it connect to anything else, or give kids time to read and not talk to them about what they're reading or have them talk to each other about what they're reading. The last thing that I would say is on the times that I have given independent, like completely independent reading time, I actually also use that as modeling time. So it was never a time for me to be at my computer, be at my desk. That was actually instruction for me. And so I would be reading in front of them. I would oftentimes talk out loud about things that I was stumbling over, or if I was really excited and didn't want to put the book down, or I was really frustrated because I forgot what I had read the day before. So, I mean, those are all things to think about, because ultimately we still want that reading time to be, I think we still want that reading time to have a connection to instruction and have a connection to purpose, and to a learning purpose. I would also say that the most successful independent reading systems that I've incorporated have usually incorporated a whole class period devoted to reading. So instead of maybe like starting every class period with reading, because really then they're only going to get a few minutes by the time they get settled in, they might read a couple of pages. I really like the days when they're reading for a full day in order for us to really work on that reading stamina, which is another reason why we would have students read independently, but not have them read in like 5 and 10-minute chunks as much as we would want them to really be able to work on developing that stamina. So I know this is a long response. I'm sorry. It's a tough question. The last thing that I would say though is I think that there are other ways to think about independent reading. So if you want students to read independently, which makes a lot of sense, we want them to, I think it's partially part of that gradual release, right? So it can be within the context of a unit. And it doesn't have to be that everybody in the class is reading a totally different book. It can be, you know, maybe there are 5 choices of books and we have small groups of students who are reading those. Maybe it is something where it's not even a whole novel that they're having a choice, but maybe you're reading a novel together and then everybody gets a choice on a corresponding essay, or everybody gets a choice on a corresponding short story, or you have some small group choices. And I think that those can be more effective. Finally, I would say that even now, when I totally release kids into their independent reading, I'm doing it really after we have used shared texts really to practice those reading skills that we want to develop. So are they able to comprehend what they read? Are they finding patterns? Are they making connections? Are they connecting to big ideas? Can they tell somebody else what this makes them think about? Can they analyze that text? And then can we practice that or release them into that more independent work?